Now, as hundreds of migrants continue to arrive on UK shores every day, the Prime Minister, Boris Johnson, has asked a cross-government task force to consider options to deter migrants from crossing the Channel. The latest option considered is to house asylum seekers in army barracks rather than hotels while they await processing. Cabinet Minister Stephen Barclay will chair the first meeting of the initiative early this week in a bid to address the Channel crossing crisis.
Well, Amandeep Bhogal is a Conservative commentator, joins us now. A very good morning to you.
Yes, good morning, Simon. Good morning.
This is the first meeting, and we've had this crisis now for, well, years.
Yes, exactly. And this is a crisis, but it's not just a crisis in terms of illegal migration. It's also a crisis in terms of the vulnerable people that are being exploited by organized criminal gangs. And it's a failure of the European Union, the French, the Italians, and it's a monumental failure in protecting the most vulnerable from having to take such dangerous journeys across the Channel. And of course, it is a huge challenge, not only to our border force, who sometimes have perhaps not functioned as the way that perhaps the Home Secretary has perhaps wanted, or they could have to protect Britain's national interest.
There was a poll in the papers yesterday saying that a large percentage of Tory voters think that the Conservatives have just been too soft in their strategy so far in tackling this. What actually are their options?
Well, look, I think the Home Secretary has been fighting on three fronts in trying to deal with this situation. She is having to deal with our own civil service and the intransigence that she has seen in it. She's dealing with the border force, who, let's face it, border force, the clue should be in the name. And she's also having to deal with the French, who, of course, President Macron seems to be in no mood to uphold his own agreements, for example, from July this year, to prevent 100% of these crossings. Of course, the easiest solution is to take away the pull factor of these illegal crossings, and that is simply to process people offshore. Of course, anyone who wants to reach safety or refuge surely wants to secure their surroundings and environment and their life and their livelihoods. And of course, the number of safe countries that these people are passing through, surely one would think that they would be seeking refuge and safety even in France itself.
You had to go at the border force there, and I'm just wondering, what on earth can they do? If you don't process, and the problem seems to be, it's all very well saying process them, we're not processing anybody. Hence the backlog, hence everybody saying, well, let's get on a boat because once we're there, nothing will happen to us. If we process these asylum seekers and those that were justifiably seeking asylum, we got them working, got them earning money, paying tax, then that's fine. Others who weren't justified, we sent away. Wouldn't that solve the problem?
Well, you see, that's the thing. The legalities that surround the Home Secretary in terms of, the civil service, the legalities that she faces from, what she has herself described as activist lawyers chasing around bogus asylum seekers. Well, look, the simple fact is, once you reach the UK shoreline, the likelihood of you being, if you fail in your asylum bid, or being deported to your country of origin is literally zero. After all, how do you prove someone is from a particular place when there is nothing to prove that they are from a particular place, and then getting that country to agree to take them back? So that's why I think the processing, A, has to be offshore, and B, it has to be swift, and C, I think when that starts happening, it will already act as the biggest deterrent that can be provided to tackle this crisis.
Process isn't happening, though.
That's the thing, and it has to happen overseas. It has to happen offshore, and that is something I think
it doesn't matter. Surely it doesn't matter where it happens. You just want the process to happen. You could set up a.
It does. It really does matter, because the biggest pull factor is economics. These are mostly failed asylum seekers from the likes of Germany, from the likes of Italy, from the likes of France, and a lot of these people are trying their hands at the UK.
Yeah, but wherever they're processed, you send them back to wherever it's agreed they're sent back to.
Well, that's the thing. How do you get countries to agree to take back people who you can't prove where they have come from or where their origins are. And that's why they have to be processed offshore, so that the whole idea that once you get to the UK mainland, you will be there for life, no matter what happens. That is the pull that has to be removed.
Don't we have an international responsibility not to land our issues on someone like Albania, to sort out our process first, and then we can talk in those terms? But at the moment, we're falling at the first hurdle. We're just not getting these people through the system.
On the contrary, Simon, I would say that UK upholds its international responsibilities more so than our European neighbours, for example. I mean, look at how both our government and the British people were absolutely enthusiastic to help our Afghan friends when the Pakistan-backed Taliban took over Afghanistan a few months ago now. Look at how the UK government has spent billions helping displaced people in Syria. Look at our UK aid program. We are doing more than others. This responsibility primarily falls on the rich countries in the Middle East, be it the UAE, be it the Saudis. So the Saudis had enough. They've just given $3 billion to the failing Pakistani regime. If they've got enough money to hand over to a nuclear-armed rogue regime, I think they've got enough money to look after people around them. And that's where this responsibility falls. I don't think displacing people further than they already are in their own regions is a good idea.
How likely do you actually think it is in practice that we would enforce some kind of Australian-style system?
I think that is exactly the type of system that we need. The Australians had this issue. And again, look, this is about protecting vulnerable people.
In practice, do you think that's something that the UK government would actually successfully pursue and then implement?
I think that is exactly the type of deterrent that the UK government must pursue. And I think it's quite likely that it will end up happening.
OK, thank you very much for joining us on the programme today. Appreciate your insight. And we know lots of people are getting in touch this morning on specifically this issue.
In fact, I just want to put this to you. Has he gone? Let's bring him back, because I just want to put this to you, that Kevin has messaged in saying, I think it's a good idea to put them in army barracks while we return these people. We're putting them in a hotel. That's a huge waste of money. There is a real anger, and it seems only now are people appreciating how angry people have been about this for an awfully long time. It's not a case of don't let them in. It's let's process them. Those that are entitled to stay in the country, let's speed this process up. Those that aren't, they need to be rehomed in their country of origin. And I don't understand which bit of that is a problem.
Well, the bit of that is, look, again, on three fronts. A, the civil service. The civil service in this country, be it Brexit, be it this issue, has been hidebound. It's been intransigent, that it simply does not want to do what the will of the public is, what the will of the people is, what the will of the government is. And that is something that Priti Patel has had to fight.
So you agree that is the answer? You're explaining why it's not happening, but what everybody seems to want is answers. If there is an answer there...
The second part of that, of course, is to get the French to agree to actually honour what they've agreed, and that is take back people who have failed their asylum bids here. And they're simply not doing that either. So that's why it falls back to, again, offshore these people, so it acts as a deterrent so that this is not happening in the first place.
Right. Well, we're there. We'll be talking about this, I'm sure, again.